Welcome to the stage, your hosts for the 2021 Capital Region Business Forum, Julie Coons, President and CEO of the Northern Virginia Chamber of Commerce, Rosie Allen Herring, 2021 Chair of the Greater Washington Board of Trade and President and CEO at United Way of the National Capital Area, and David Harrington, President and CEO of the Prince George's Chamber of Commerce.
It's exciting to be together, isn't it? I mean, just give ourselves a round of applause. We're all here. We're happy to be here. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Capital Region Business Forum. On behalf of the Northern Virginia Chamber of Commerce and our partners, the Greater Washington Board of Trade and Prince George's County Chamber of Commerce, thank you for attending today. This morning's event is a shining example of Greater Washington regional cooperation. Our region is more successful now, and as we rush to the future, when our region cooperates, communicates, and collaborates on issues and challenges that we collectively face. Each geographic part of our region brings amazing strengths and opportunities to advance and grow our region. And today is an example of how we think and act together. We have amazing assets, talent, and resources in our region, yet we also face economic and racial gaps in equity of opportunity. Over this past year, it has been my experience that the business community and its leaders recognize the challenges that we face and are working collaboratively to sustain and grow our region's challenges and gaps in equity. As demonstrated by today and over the past year, each of your organizations representing all of you gathered here today are committed to solutions and, importantly, progress for our region. Thank you for your engagement in these conversations and the actions we must all take to make this important work impactful. Now let me introduce Rosie Allen Herring, 2021 Chair of the Greater Washington Board of Trade and President and CEO at United Way of the National Capital Area. Rosie?
Good morning, and thank you, Julie. I could not agree more. We are excited to be a part and be with you here together. This is indeed an opportunity, again, to host what I think one of the most important conversations that's ever had in this region. Where else can you get the mayor and two governors at one time? I'd like to take a moment today just to recognize all of our elected officials who are in attendance today. Will all the elected officials in attendance please stand so that we may recognize you? Today's event will be one that I know that you will take with you as we continue to come out of this crisis and this most unprecedented time to try to tackle some of the toughest challenges that are facing our region. We are in partnership with you. The Greater Washington Board of Trade is with you on this journey, and we thank you again for being here with us today. David Harrington from the Prince George's County Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you, Rosie. Two good friends who are wonderful in helping to get this event going. So we really appreciate you, and we really appreciate all of you being here this morning. This annual event would not be made possible without our sponsors. We'd like to take a moment to recognize them. Presenting sponsor, Bank of America. Bank of America, are you here? Just right there you go. There's Bank of America. Thank you very much. Executive sponsors, Transurban and Employ Prince George's. Are you here? Appreciate you. Supporting sponsors, Care First, Innova, Kaiser Permanente, Washington Gas. Let's recognize all of them. And community sponsor, the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce, if they're here, Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce. So thank you so much to all of you for our sponsorship. And now, I'd like to introduce our presenting sponsor for today's program, Mr. Larry DeVita, President, Greater Washington, D.C. Bank of America. Larry, would you come forward? Hi, Larry. Good to see you.
Just what you want to do is hear from a banker in the morning, right? It's terrific for us to be part of this. I'm Larry DeRita, as David said. Thank you, David and Julie and Rosie, for doing this today, and for the elected officials who are joining us. It's a real privilege on behalf of, we have 7,000, close to 7,000 Bank of America teammates in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, and I'm very proud to be here to represent them and to be part of today's program. Briefly, I have two very desirable tasks. I'm going to introduce two of our speakers. First, I want to introduce the moderator for today's discussion, Tony Pierce. Tony's a partner. I think we all know Tony so well. He's a partner at Aiken, Gum, Strauss, Hauer, and Feld, in charge of the firm's Washington, D.C. office, and he's the chair of the Board of Trade Senior Counsel, a terrific partner to all of us. I know we all know Tony. To have him moderating today. He's got more than 3 decades, it says, of trial and litigation experience, but what we know him as is a really, truly wise man and a great moderator and a great partner to all of us. So, Tony, we welcome you today. I also I have a great honor of being able to introduce one of our speakers today, too, one of the 3 panel participants. You know, we all do this as business leaders because we know that the private sector has such an important role to play in progress, in economic opportunity, in economic growth and prosperity and in equality. We're all doing our best to do that, and we're all proud to partner with government leaders who are so inspired in the way that they lead, and nobody more so than the first person I'm proud to be able to introduce today, the 7th elected mayor of Washington, D.C., Mayor Muriel Bowser. Mayor Bowser was sworn in 2015 and pledged to bring a fresh start to the District of Columbia. I think we can all acknowledge that she's done exactly that. She's created pathways to the middle class for residents. Those of us who are pleased to live in Washington, D.C. proper know how much the city's advanced under her tenure, and she's created she's fostered a true culture of inclusion, transparency, and action. In 2018, Mayor Bowser became the first woman ever re-elected as mayor of Washington, D.C., and the first mayor to earn a second term in almost 2 decades. She truly is a national leader. We saw her leadership in our city last year in a very trying time for our country, and she was a truly inspiring leader. And as, again, business leaders in the district, those of us are very proud to have been able to watch her lead our country through help lead our country through a very difficult period. She's a native Washingtonian, as we know, and Mayor Bowser earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in history from Chatham University and a master's degree right here in town in public policy from American University. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Mayor of the District of Columbia, Muriel Bowser.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Bowser. And now I'd like to turn over to Pierce Coffey, the president of Transurban North America, to make some additional introductions. Pierce.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Larry. It's a pleasure to be here today and see your faces. Saw squares on my monitor at home. I commend Northern Virginia Chamber of Commerce, Prince George's Chamber of Commerce, and Greater Washington Board of Trade for getting us all together here safely. As Larry mentioned, I'm Pierce Coffey, president of Transurban North America, developer and operator of the 495, 95, and 395 express lanes in partnership with Virginia, and also part of a team recently selected by Maryland to develop its express lanes network. This morning, it is my pleasure to introduce to you all Governor Ralph Northam. Governor Northam is a native of Virginia's Eastern Shore. He was educated at Virginia Military Institute and Eastern Virginia Medical School. The governor served as a medical officer in the United States Army, where he treated wounded soldiers during Operation Desert Storm. After the Army, Governor Northam opened up his practice as a pediatric neurologist in Hampton Roads. He was later elected to the Virginia State Senate in 2007 and lieutenant governor in 2013. Taking office as Virginia's 73rd governor, Governor Northam has led Virginia to be awarded back-to-back rankings as the top state for business, which many people in this room would appreciate. He's expanded Medicaid to provide health care to hundreds and thousands of Virginians. And he's led the Commonwealth through the pandemic with the same compassion and comprehensive care that his patients have come to know. He has also joined forces with Governor Hogan to help tackle this region's congestion. These governors worked together to form a bipartisan, bi-state agreement to replace and expand the American Legion Bridge, a project I think we can all agree was decades in the making and will serve generations to come. Thank you, Governor Northam. Thank you, Governor Hogan, for showing this nation what we can do when we work together. At Transurban, we are proud to be a part of this solution. Advancing these projects alongside Virginia and Maryland will provide travelers in the capital region more equitable and sustainable travel choices that will keep them moving faster, safer, and more reliably. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce His Excellency, the Governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam. And now I'd like to welcome to the stage Alexander Austin, Director of Business Services for Employ Prince George's. Alexander?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Love the energy. Thank you, Pierce, for the introduction. As Pierce mentioned, I am Alexander Austin, Director of Business Services with Employ Prince George's. Employ Prince George's is a 501c3 located in Prince George's County, Maryland, and under the leadership of the County Executive, Angela Alsobrooks, and Employ Prince George's President and CEO, Walter Simmons. Our primary goal is to be the bridge for both job seekers and employers. We are widely known for the work we do in Prince George's County as Employ Prince George's. And we have additionally launched our new entity, Employ DMV. This allows us to extend our services to employers in both Washington, D.C., Virginia, and also surrounding Maryland counties. We have several initiatives, including the Rapid Reemployment Grant, which provides a grant to employers who hire unemployed Prince George's County residents, and an employer can receive up to $15,000 per employee hired. For more information, please visit our website, employpg.org, for the Rapid Reemployment Grant information and the 14 industry bridge programs we offer. And now it's my honor to introduce our final speaker, Governor Larry Hogan. Governor Larry Hogan Jr. was sworn in as the 62nd governor of the state of Maryland on January 21st, 2015. In 2018, he was overwhelmingly reelected to a second four-year term, receiving the most votes of any Maryland gubernatorial candidate and becoming only the second Republican governor to be reelected in the 242-year history of the state. After being reelected, Governor Hogan and fellow governors reelected him as the chairman of the National Governors Association, and he consistently maintains one of the highest job approval ratings in the country. Governor Hogan is also a family man. Governor Hogan and First Lady Yumi Hogan have 3 daughters, 4 grandchildren, and 2 dogs. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you enjoy this important discussion.
Well, thank you all for, y'all hear me? Okay, good. Mic off or on? There we go. Thank you all for joining us. It is a miracle that we are all here in person, and I just want to thank you, our great elected officials, for taking the time to come down and talk to the business community. We don't have our normal 500 in the room, but at least we're not doing it virtually where you're sitting there looking at my big head in the screen. So let's get started by talking about the elephant in the room, and that's the coronavirus. Ladies first, Mayor Bowser, tell us what you've been doing to tackle the virus, and where do you see things going in the future with this thing?
Well, first of all, thank you, Tony, for having us all here. I want to thank the Board of Trade and all of the presenting sponsors and all of the organizations that brought us together. Welcome to Washington, D.C. D.C. is open, and let's all get back to work. Let me start there. I am thrilled to have been in some traffic getting down here. It suggested to me that some things are getting back to normal, and having an 8 a.m. business meeting is a sign of normality, and I'm really happy about that.
Mayor, does that mean you're going to open Connecticut Avenue back up?
Connecticut Avenue has been open throughout, continues to be open. And let me just say, obviously we've been through a time, and our country, our world has been through a time with this coronavirus. But I think that we can say in this region that we've stuck together. Our residents and businesses have made tremendous sacrifices. People have done exactly what we've asked them to do. And as a result, we were able to bend the curve, keep our hospitals opening and functioning. If we have any hospital providers here, give them a big round of applause. I know our friends at GW are here. And as tough as it's been, and many of us have had personal loss from COVID, but we saved lives. And we've kept people employed, and people continue to support their families. And one big thing that's so positive is our kids are back in school. And that is huge for how we get back to normal. So I'm very grateful to my partnership with the governors throughout. We've been in close contact. Our region is interconnected, obviously, by jobs and business, but also by personal ties. You know, I like to say that my cousins are in Maryland because they are, and go shopping and do other things and dining and recreation in Virginia because I do. And so the decisions that we make together will help us get over this pandemic. So having said all that, I think we're very well positioned for the comeback. I know we are in Washington. I'm quite sure we're going to hear from our neighbors that we're well positioned for the comeback because we've done what we need to do to crush this virus. And we will. And we went into the virus strong. We continue to have all of the things that make this a place where people want to live and do business and visit. And we have to be very focused on how we deploy the vast federal resources that are coming into this region to allow us to think about how we're going to be different on the other side of the virus. And I know the Board of Trade and all of your members are very focused. Things are not going to be exactly the same. So how do we take advantage of how we're going to be different to attract more people who want to live and work here in this region, to move around the region differently in terms of our transportation, to build sustainably so that we are very focused on what kind of used to seem far away, but is now right here. And that's all of the emergencies that come from changes in our climate. So when we focus on all of those things coming out of this pandemic, I think we'll be even stronger.
Thank you, Mayor. Governor Northam, can you give us your take on where we are with the virus in Virginia and the region, and in particular, how can the business community be helpful to you guys as we move forward?
Yeah, Tony, thanks first of all for having us here. I think it's great to have the mayor and the governor of Maryland with us. And to the business community, thanks for all you have done, especially over the past year and a half. I know this has been very, very difficult, especially on some of the industries, especially the hospitality industry. And as the mayor said, we're coming back strong. But the first point I'd like to make, we are fortunate to have Mayor Bowser and Governor Hogan We've had a great relationship, whether it's been working on the Chesapeake Bay or transportation issues or this past year on COVID-19. And I can't ask for better partnerships. And I think when we talk about collaboration, it starts with leadership, and to be able to work with the mayor and the governor, it's just been a real privilege. So thank you all for all that you have done. This has been a tough year, and we're in a better place than we were certainly back in March of 2020, but we still have a lot of work to do. And if folks remember, we couldn't get PPE, we didn't have testing supplies, and I want to again commend, it was mentioned earlier that Governor Hogan was in charge of the National Governors Association, and governors literally were on their own when this started, and were competing for different supplies, and anyway, did a great job leading us through that. We got through the testing. Now we have 3 effective and safe vaccines. We've done a lot of work to try to keep especially small businesses alive and well and get them back on their feet. Try to do everything that we can to get our children back in the classrooms. We know that's where they need to be. That's where they learn best. That's where they're safest. And so where we are from a business perspective, and I am a small business owner back in Hampton Roads. Your question was, what can we do as business leaders? I think we really need to step up and say the only way, if you think this through, the only way we're going to get out of this pandemic is to get people vaccinated. And so we took the initiative in Virginia. We mandated that all of our state employees would be vaccinated by September 1. That's over 100,000 individuals. And I think the business community, to be helpful, I would hope that you would step up as well and say that the only way we're going to move forward, the only way we're going to keep our businesses alive and well, the only way we're going to get our children back in school safely is to get people vaccinated. And because I'll put my doctor's hat on for just a second, what's going to happen with this virus is viruses are smart. They want to survive. And the way they survive is they mutate. And that's what we're seeing with Delta, and there are also some other variants that are on the horizon. And so if just a certain percentage of the population is vaccinated, the virus will continue. As long as there are vectors like you and me for the virus to live in, the virus is going to continue to mutate, and this is going to go on and on and on. So we've got to really just say, look, to put this behind us, we need people to roll up their sleeve, those that haven't, and get vaccinated. So a lot of other things we're working on, especially keeping our businesses alive and well, tourism, getting that back on its feet. But the way we move forward, Tony, is to really push, and we've got to push the envelope.
And I will tell you, you can't come in Aiken Gump's Washington office without being vaccinated. Yeah. And I know there may be other businesses that have taken that approach too. And I tell you, it really worked to we're 100% vaccinated now. Yeah. And it's really been the business putting that out as opposed to the government telling us to do it. It's really forced some of the employees who were reluctant.
Well, it's good, Tony. And again, to talk about politics, we're in a biological war. That's essentially what we're doing, and the enemy is the virus. And it shouldn't be Republican versus Democrat. Absolutely. It should be we as Americans, as Virginians, as folks of Washington, D.C., of the state of Maryland, the way to fight this war is to beat this virus, and the way to do it is to get vaccinated. So that's the mentality that we've got to take.
Governor Hogan, you've done a great job managing the virus. Tell us some of the things that you have been doing. And again, if you could speak to what the business community could do to help you, we'd appreciate that.
Well, first of all, let me just thank you, Tony, and I want to thank all of the organizers and the sponsors this morning. It is great to see everybody back in person. That's progress in and of itself. It's great to be. I want to second what both the mayor and the governor of the Commonwealth said earlier about the cooperation. It's just been, for the past 19 months.
I think you need some.
Oh, my mic's not working? Okay. Can you hear me now?
Nope. Well. Governor, you have a booming voice. I do believe people can hear you, so.
Yeah. Well, so. Now can you hear me?
Now?
Yeah.
There you go.
All right.
All right. Well, I'm going to thank the guys working the mic, and also all of our sponsors and organizers. And I just want to second what the mayor and the governor of the Commonwealth said earlier. For the past 19 months, we've all been in uncharted territory, and none of us really knew what we were going to be dealing with. But we've had tremendous cooperation. I'm proud of their leadership. I think we've always tried to cooperate as a region, but I think never before have we spent as much time talking to one another. The governors, particularly, Governor Northam mentioned that we usually talk to each other at a regional NGA thing 2-3 times a year. We were talking 2 or 3 times a week with all the governors across the country trying to figure out how to deal with this virus. And it's been challenging, but it's been a great partnership between the government at all levels, at federal, state, and local government, together with the private sector, our great healthcare partners, our hospital systems, and the companies who stepped up to do joint ventures with us on testing and on vaccinations, and it's made a heck of a difference. We're in a much better place than we were. It's still very scary with this Delta variant. It's been mutating. It's a lot different than what we were dealing with before. Obviously, it's raging across the country with spiking numbers and overflowing hospitals, but it's not what we're seeing in this region. I think we're all doing better than most of the other places around the country. We've now vaccinated more than 80% of all the eligible Marylanders 12 and over. We vaccinated more than 95% of our vulnerable population 65 and over. It's one of the best vaccination rates in the country. As a result, we have the second lowest case rate of all 50 states. And that's making a difference. It's enabling us to get back to work, to get the economy going again. And we kept most of our businesses open throughout the entire pandemic, all of our essential businesses. We've had 100% of our businesses open since last July. Our economy is really booming. We're also leading in economic recovery, not just health recovery. I think they go hand in hand. So business communities in a much better shape than they were. They're feeling more confident. We're bringing people back to work. We've had 15 straight months of job growth. We added 22,000 jobs last month in Maryland. We now have more jobs available than ever before in the history of the state. Our biggest problem right now is the labor force and getting people back to work. So that's what we're focused on. But we've still got a lot of this ahead of us, and we're still communicating and trying to figure out every day how do we do better. We want to find out how we finish vaccinating those remaining 18-point-something% of the population. And we're now, we had a press conference yesterday talking about the need for boosters. We've done 28,000 booster shots for immunocompromised people. And now we're expanding that into our long-term care facilities, our nursing homes, because with the Delta variant, this thing is jumping the vaccines after 5 or 6 months. So it's still scary, but I think by working together with our regional partners and with all the business community, we are going to get through this together.
So there are a lot of groups in the audience that represent big businesses and also represent small and minority-owned businesses. One of the sectors that was just crushed by this pandemic were the small and minority-owned businesses. Let me see, Governor Northam, can you speak to what Virginia has done to help bring some of those businesses back?
Absolutely. And as I said earlier, some business sectors did better than others during the pandemic, but the one that at least in Virginia, was hit significantly hard was the hospitality industry, restaurants, hotels, entertainment venues. And so we recognized this early. We'd made some modifications, especially for our restaurants, outdoor dining, allowing ABC products to be taken off premises. And the biggest thing that we did, I think, that really helped our small businesses was a program called Rebuild Virginia. And we initially put around $100 million of state funding into that, and that was to help small businesses to stay functional and also to rebuild. And we spent that 3 times over early on, and so we realized the importance of that. And we expanded it through the funding from ARPA, the rescue plan money, to about $400 million. And so this has been very effective in helping businesses. We also, and I'm sure, I know Washington and Maryland rely on this as well, as tourism. So we put about $50 million into tourism to really help market our state parks and the things that we have to offer in Virginia. A lot of it went to the localities to help with their tourism, but the Rebuild Virginia program I think has really been helpful to keep our businesses up and running. And so we still have funding left in the Rebuild Virginia program, and we encourage all of our small businesses to participate in that.
Mayor Bowser, what have you done to help small and minority-owned businesses? Again, a lot of us are focused on this because we know that come out of the pandemic, those small businesses and minority businesses are going to need to grow to make sure we have a diverse economy. What have you done in this area?
So this may be a theme that you hear me repeat, but the best thing that we can do for small businesses is to get back to work. And I have to repeat that because we're going to talk about a lot of government programs, and believe me, we have a lot of them. But if they don't have customers, they're not a business that can operate. So I mean this sincerely. The best thing that I can do for small businesses is make sure we're doing everything in our power to crush this virus from the government standpoint, get everybody vaccinated, as you've already heard, continue to encourage the federal government to get back to normal, and to work with everybody on their return to work plans, not only in the district, but in this entire region. And then we will begin to see a more normally functioning economy for our small and local businesses. Like you've heard from the governor, we went in locally early. We saw it immediately. Just imagine one Friday, we said, well, we're going to shut down the government. I said, what? We really have to close down the government, send the kids home? And none of us knew then how long it would be. I guess I would have said maybe a month at the most. But going into that, shutting down the entire economy, we knew that people would need relief and would need relief fast. So we set up some funds, a bridge fund, for example, that infused $100 million that we administered quickly. And got out into the community. We were very pleased, and we know we have a lot of our local banks here, and the Bank of America among them, who put out a lot of PPP money. That was a lifesaver for a lot of our small and local businesses, and as I was briefed yesterday, they're still going through that forgiveness process. That's hugely important. We were also able, after having to completely redo a budget during this pandemic cycle, and now have the benefit of a lot of federal dollars that came in, have a huge budget proposal that was approved through the council that will allow us to provide additional relief and actually, Tony, do some things that we were already contemplating, like have rent relief for our small businesses that just didn't have the resilience to be closed down and go through all of these different programs for relief. That's important. How we are going to come out of this pandemic equitably is also a priority for us. So we have been able to fund an impact fund that will allow us to look at all different types of proposals and businesses and different long tenured companies in the district and provide them those additional funds.
Governor Hogan, can you speak to what you're doing to make sure that we come out of this with a diverse economy with small and minority businesses growing as well as some of our larger businesses have done during this time?
Sure. Well, it sounds like a lot of us were doing the same kinds of things. Again, regional cooperation. Early on, before all the federal benefits started coming in, we had to provide assistance from the state, and so we initially put $760 million in state funding into assisting. We had multiple different programs, some targeted specifically at small and minority-owned businesses. We put out grants that didn't have to be repaid We then had targeted things for different segments of the industry, for the restaurant and hospitality, the bars and restaurants, the hospitality industry was particularly hit, tourism-related industries, all the ones that we saw that were suffering. We figured it was so important for us to try to keep those businesses open. We didn't want the businesses to fail, and we knew that eventually they'd be able to get back on track. So in addition to putting out the $760 million in relief to small businesses, I also, earlier this year in our legislative session in January, got my legislature, which, we're different parties. I have a 70% Democratic legislature. They unanimously passed our Relief Act, which was $1.45 billion in tax cuts, largest in state history, to allow small businesses and lower income folks and people that were unemployed to keep more of their own money in their own pockets. So we cut taxes on those people. Rather than just handing out money from the state and federal government, we let them keep some of their own money. I think it had an impact, and so that's why we're having 15 months of job growth. It's why we certainly had businesses that suffered, but we didn't lose as many businesses. It's why we have one of the best economic recoveries in America. And I'm very proud of the small businesses, the resiliency, what it took to stay alive. I agree with what Mayor Bowser said. Our problem right now, I go across the state. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. Small business owners say to me, I can't get people to come to work. Labor shortages is the only real problem we're faced with right now in small businesses. So we've got to encourage people to get back to work. I understand there are lots of reasons why people are having difficulties with childcare and kids weren't in school and unemployment benefits. There's many, but that's one of the reasons why we have to keep this virus under control so people feel safe getting back to work.
I think we'll come back. Governor Northam, you want to speak to something?
What the mayor and governor said, I think that, in talking to businesses that are already established in Virginia, and also businesses that want to come to Virginia, the top priority is the reason why they're attracted is our talented workforce. And we have to keep that in mind. And we are fortunate in Washington, Maryland, and Virginia to have great colleges and universities. We have 23 community colleges in Virginia. And we've got to continue to be able to train that workforce to get those people trained and retrained. And just to mention a quick program, or mention quickly a program in Virginia, we initiated this last year, G3, which is get skilled, get a job, and get ahead. And it allows individuals in Virginia to go to community colleges to learn a skill, to get a degree without incurring any debt. It also helps with some of their wraparound expenses, like the governor was mentioned, childcare, transportation, et cetera. So anything that we can do as a business community to support workforce training will keep our economy moving forward. So it's very important.
So I was going to go to another subject, but you guys brought up talent, workforce. One of the most important things to this group is getting talent into our businesses. So let's just stick with that for a second. Let's go back to you, Governor Hogan. So we, at least from my perspective, we've seen that some kids were really hurt by this remote virtual learning that they've been doing for the last, 18 months or whatever. What can we do to kind of bring them back up quickly? And what are you doing in Maryland to work on that issue?
Well, it's a huge problem, our kids not being in school for 18 months. And even though, our school systems, our teachers, really did the best job they could with remote learning, there's no question our kids suffered as a result. We had about half of our school systems open all last year, and most of the private schools were open, but some of the larger jurisdictions in the Baltimore-Washington corridor weren't open at all. And those kids have really fallen behind, and the gap is widened rather than closed. And it's going to be hard to turn it around, but we're trying to focus on that. We've put money into, lots of money into the school system to try to get our kids safely back in school. We put $3 billion in for filtration systems, for testing, for all the things that try to keep those kids safe. And we've put money into tutoring programs specifically for at-risk youth and people that have fallen behind the most. And we launched a $400 million broadband effort to expand rural and urban broadband to every single person in the state, because the COVID crisis exacerbated the problem. We found out how bad it was when people didn't have connectivity. But we're focused on workforce development. We're focused on, we have things called P-Tech schools, which have been terrific, where we get the private sector to invest in adopting a school where we do STEM education. They can earn a 2-year college degree while they're getting their high school diploma with no debt, and guaranteed jobs and summer job placement and mentorships. And I think we've got to look at every kind of thing we can think of to get our kids caught up, because I think we're going to be suffering the consequences of this for decades to come.
Mayor Bowser, can you speak to the whole talent issue and what you've been doing in the city to try to make sure kids get educated and that they can eventually come and work in all these great businesses that are represented here?
Absolutely. So I agree with the governor that our teachers did the very best they could in remote learning. They pivoted on a dime. And they innovated in many cases, and most people here won't be surprised to hear me say this. Virtual school is not real school. Like what we experienced last year is not a real, any teacher will tell you the experience with the kids, the interaction, even the scoring and grading, it was different. Okay, and so we have to know, and there can be very robust virtual programs, but what we experienced in COVID just wasn't what we expect in educating our kids. So we've been very focused in DC on bringing our kids back. I actually run our school, the mayor is responsible for schools in the district, and we were proud to work very hard with our labor partners to be the first in the region to bring our kids back in a hybrid environment earlier in the year, and now have 100% in-person 5 days a week school. And so we want to continue to emphasize the partnership between us and the government and schools and families and communities, that it's really up to us how successful our school year is going to be by following layered protections and protocols. We also think that all of the education folks are very focused on high impact tutoring as a way to accelerate learning. Our kids have been extremely resilient. They've done what we've asked them to do. And now what we're focused on is kind of not like a blanket approach to catch them all up, but focusing on high impact strategies for tutoring that is repeated and consistent and high volume. And we think once we have all of those things in place, that we will be able to catch those kids up. But it's also, I think, an opportunity, Tony. Folks have experience, and I know you are probably experiencing this in your workforces as well. People have had a year and a half to think about their life and what they're doing, and if they should be doing something else. And quite frankly, as an employer, I'm glad people have had that opportunity, because I want them to be focused on the things that's going to make themselves happy and contribute to their fulfillment. If that's not with us, then that's fine too. But we have had the opportunity to think about how our workforce is operating. So I think that a lot of our employees and how we're thinking about hiring employees is changing, and as a region, we have to think about that too. I think hybrid work is here to stay in some format. So how are we adjusting our workforce strategies to think about that? Quite frankly, that puts a lot of places on the map in competition with us for employees. So we have to continue to think about that. Our focus on career training is also, I think, informed by our experience with COVID. I asked my education team to really think about the 12th grade year. I call it the new high school. And what are we doing in that 12th grade year? And it really harkens back to the career training of the past, but a lot of kids, a lot of people in our workforce right now, they went to school, they went to work in their 12th grade year. They may have had 1 or 2 classes. A lot of them already had the credits that they needed towards graduation or were very close. And they spent a good part of their day in their 12th grade year going to work. Not internship. I didn't say internship. I said to work, which meant they were getting paid. So we are really focused this year in this budget and in the coming years on that 12th grade year in new high school. Because for high school kids, older kids, some of them had a better experience virtually. Some of them did better, and they were more independent, and they were able to do things. Now, keep in mind, it wasn't the same school, but a lot of them learned about supporting their families. Some of them had to work, or learning a new skill, or supporting younger siblings. So that 12th grade year is I think how we're going to refocus some of our career training.
Great. Governor Northam, we're going to switch topics here.
All right.
So I have a 96-year-old father and a 90-year-old mother that live in Fairfax, Virginia, that I go visit from my home in D.C. every Saturday. And I take the Beltway around, come up Connecticut Avenue, go around, and I sit from, some of you all have experienced this. I sit.
So Tony, what you're saying, you want to borrow my helicopter? Is that what you want?
Well, that would be nice. That would be nice. So I sit from 270 from the spur all the way, well, it frees up when I get over, but coming back home, I sit from Tyson's to the American Legion Bridge. I know you and Governor Hogan had a landmark deal that we talked about expansion and all that, and toll lanes and all that. Tell me what we're doing to solve this transportation problem that I experience every Saturday, and many people experience, even in COVID, throughout the region.
Well, a couple observations. First of all, with a 95-year-old and a 90-year-old parent, you've got good genes, so congratulations on that. There's no question that we have transportation challenges. We have for a while, and we're not going to fix it overnight. But again, the collaboration that we've had between Washington and Maryland, and I think one of the things to realize, Tony, is that we can't pave our way out of congestion. I mean, we've got some great projects going on with 66, with 395, 495, and thanks to Transurban, we've got P3 projects that have just been really doing well. So we'll continue on that, expanding 95 between Northern Virginia and Richmond. But one of the things that we've done, and again, it's in collaboration, is realize that we need to invest in rail and transit. This is one of the reasons why we've made an agreement to expand the Long Bridge, which is where all of the rail comes across the Potomac River. We have an agreement with CSX, Norfolk Southern, VRE, to really open up rail and transit. And we've also worked together collaboratively. I mean, the Metro, which has taken its knocks over the years, is vitally important to the greater Washington area to move people from point A to point B. So we work together to invest in that between Washington, Maryland, and Virginia. So I think we've, again, got to do everything that we can to work together, but also to think outside the box and how we relieve the congestion. I think a point that Mayor Bowser made is that, you know, some of working in the future will be virtually. I mean, this is the way it's going to be, and I think the technology will improve to allow us to do that. And one point I wanted to make, and this again, I know we're a little bit off topic, but to dovetail what Governor Hogan did, we realized during COVID, I mean, we knew there were inequities, we knew there were disparities before, but they were really put into much stronger focus during COVID. And one of those was the lack of universal access to broadband. And whether it be for virtual learning or telehealth or business opportunities, it's really the same as electrification was in this country in the early 1900s. In the year 2021, everybody needs access to broadband. So we've made that an initiative in Virginia as well to invest $700 million They had told me when we started our job 3 years ago that it would take 10 years. Well, now we're on target. Our goal is to have universal broadband by 2024. So a lot of good things are happening. As Mayor Bowser said, we came into COVID, I think, regionally in a strong position, but we've learned a lot, and we can come out of this in a much stronger position and certainly in a more equitable position.
Governor Hogan, you want to talk about the transportation
issues?
I do. I mean, you know, the business community helped you, I think, with a little vote there.
There's no question about that.
Ago.
First of all, yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate all the assistance from all of the sponsors. I think all of the hosts here today were a part of trying to get that done. I want to thank, of course, Governor Northam with the Beltway Accord that we did right here at a Board of Trade event when we talked about this 2 years ago. And I want to thank Mayor Bowser for her support as well, because this does impact the region. Our traffic relief plan is about building a new American Legion bridge, which is long overdue, about fixing 495 and 270. Governor Northam's already done a great job. Transurban is doing the lanes on their side of the bridge, and now hopefully they're going to be doing the same thing on our side of the bridge with the new bridge in the middle. The Washington Post said this is the biggest thing for the economy of the region since the 70s. It's a pretty big deal. We have the second worst traffic in America, and people can't get to and from work, and you can't get to visit your parents. But by the way, I was impressed that Tony goes every Saturday to see his
every
parents.
Saturday.
Thank you for that. That's a good son right there.
By the way, first to Costco, then to see them.
Costco, yeah, that's good. Good. But it's not. So we've already, aside from the traffic relief plan, which I think is going to be transformative for the region and tie in with Virginia, is going to help people to get into D.C. We're also building the Purple Line, which is 21 stops that'll tie into the metro system, which will help increase ridership, which will enable people to get to places of work and all across the region. And again, that was a really good example of cooperation. The three of us came together to find a way to save Metro. I mean, we need the federal government to step up and pay more of their fair share, since most federal employees ride that system and they don't pay enough. But we all stepped up.
Amen.
But we've had a very balanced approach. We've invested in transit and roads and bridges and tunnels and our port and our airport. Infrastructure is critically important to the region. We've made huge improvements at the Port of Baltimore, at BWI Airport, road improvements, the Purple Line, invested more in transit, worked on Metro. But I think the most important thing for infrastructure in the region is for us to get this bill passed through the Congress. So I, as chairman of the NGA, led a year-long initiative on rebuilding America's infrastructure. We got all 50 governors to agree on a set of proposals. I held an infrastructure summit at the governor's mansion in Annapolis that Governor Northam joined us for. It was Republican and Democratic governors, senators, and congressmen. And we sat down for 2 days and tried to hammer out what is the size and scope of infrastructure, what can we agree on. It ended up being the proposal that passed the Senate, that's sitting in the House, that the president supports, that for the first time in decades, we have real bipartisan common sense agreement on infrastructure. And we just need the House to get it passed to send it to the president so he can sign it into law, and we can get $1.2 billion for infrastructure for everything we need to get done.
Tony, if I could just add,
Absolutely.
to that, the mobility benefits are clear, but the jobs that come from all of those infrastructure projects are huge for all of us. The local business opportunities that come from those projects are also huge for all of us. We were proud this week to open the Frederick Douglass Memorial Bridge, which is the biggest infrastructure project in DC history. Another example of regional cooperation. Leader Hoyer was with us, with Congresswoman Norton, because that's improving the connection to DC jobs, to Prince George's County and St. Mary's County and Charles County, but also having a wonderful bike and pedestrian aspect And it is the most beautiful bridge and on top of all of that. So it is this infrastructure work, and we've had a partnership over the last 6 years with a lot of our infrastructure companies, Washington Gas and Pepco and WMATA and DC Water, to have an infrastructure academy in the district. We're going to expand that this year at the former Spingarn High School, where our folks can get real hands-on training in those jobs. We're talking about good paying jobs that come from infrastructure. So we're hugely supportive of the infrastructure bill getting through and using it as a way to hire our residents that are of all skill levels. But we know if we're going to have an equitable return out of COVID, we have to really be focused on how to get people who we think are very vulnerable in this economy in jobs and careers that pay well and that have a future, that the careers that they can stay in to be able to afford to live in this, to live in our region.
You all, Governor Hogan mentioned this a little bit, you all worked really collaboratively to get Metro funded. And we saw both, at least the first version of the bill, Metro funding was not in it. It's now in it now. What can the business community continue to do to make sure Metro stays fully funded as one of our best assets in the region? Mayor, let's stick with you, Mayor Bowser.
Sure. Well, I think one thing that we can do is get 6 senators. It's great to have 4 senators for our region.
I knew she was going to get that statehood in there.
It's great but to have 6 senators, I'm very serious. Because what I think that we see, and that is coming to clear focus with these spending bills coming from the CARES Act on down, is that if you leave out kind of the center of your region from vital funding to respond to a pandemic, then it makes it really clear how you can leave out funding for the economic engine of your region and your metro system that carries your federal employees. So always being focused on both sides, in the House and the Senate, on this region, we know, and we have been thrilled that the business community has joined us in this argument, because it really is that important when we're competing against regions all over our country who have many fewer people, many fewer residents, but much more political heft in the Senate.
Governor Northam, you want to speak to the Metro situation and continue to get it funded, and what the business community can do to help?
I don't have a whole lot to add on that, Tony. I think it's pretty obvious that when we talk about building businesses and attracting new businesses to the greater Washington area, we've got to invest in infrastructure. And so I think we really need to communicate or continue to communicate with our federal leaders, Congress and Senate, and tell them how important this is. If the economy, jobs, if we want to keep that moving forward, we've got to invest in infrastructure, and to hopefully, I don't know how to make it happen, but to put your politics aside and think about what's in the best interest of this region and go ahead and get it done. That's what needs to happen.
Governor Hogan?
Well, again, on regional cooperation, the 3 of us came together. I mean, Metro was insolvent. Metro was losing $500 million a year, and we had no funding stream. So the 3 of us came together. We did it with our legislature, who had to approve, huge investments every year to keep Metro going. Federal government failed to step in. We wanted them to be at least an equal partner. 80% of the ridership is federal employees, and we said, what happens if we don't have Metro? How do your employees get to work? But they did not. Now we did get funding for Metro included in this infrastructure bill that can't pass the House yet. We're trying to get done this month, and that'll help. But I think the federal government needs to understand their role as the federal city and how important the Metro system is. We all have recognized that. And as I said, us building 21 stops on the Purple Line, it's not technically part of Metro. It's a light rail system. It's going to tie into Metro and I think dramatically increase ridership. But Metro's got its own set of problems that we have to address, because when you have safety and inefficiencies and it can't run on time and the trains are breaking down, people are less likely to use it. And so, we got to fix some of the systemic problems of Metro, and then we got to find some funding to make sure that they can continue to operate efficiently.
Thank you. Mayor Bowser, we talk about a bunch of programs this morning, and one always wants to ask the question how we're paying for all that. The federal government had a great stimulus. The city got a lot of money from that. Yet we in the business community saw the city council just pass through a number of tax increases. That's why I got you. I got you. You're the ally. And can you just speak to where you think that's going with these tax increases that just hit in the council and the budget? I'm not asking you to make any policy right now. Just give us your thoughts on what the business community can be doing, because most of us, particularly me who lives in the city, don't necessarily like this tax increase.
Well, how should I say this? If I need to raise taxes, I would come to the folks and say, listen, DC residents and businesses, we need to get these things done, and this is how this revenue would be used. And so I made that suggestion, for example, to have a dedicated funding stream for Metro, very specific, very targeted. We spent a year figuring out how we're going to invest it and what our return on that investment would be. I had no such rationale to bring to the taxpayers this year because, quite frankly, we are recovering from this pandemic. The forecast is that we will return to our number of jobs and revenue in one fiscal year. We will recover from this. The fact is that we were able to use and tap into reserves to get us through the emergency. The fact is that the federal government, with the American Rescue Plan and the CARES Act, really replaced a lot of our lost revenue in this year. So we didn't need, in my judgment, need to raise taxes. We were even able to use some of those federal dollars to try new programs that, whether they're focused on high impact tutoring, like I talked about already, or having funds available to avert a crisis in rental housing. All of those things we were able to do. So what can the business community and taxpayers do on any budget proposal is stay involved and hold representatives accountable. If they don't represent your views, then they shouldn't be there. And that quite simply is how I would approach raising taxes for no reason. And that is how we'll go. Now, having said that, the budget was approved. I signed the budget because then on balance, I think it's good for the district. Now it's up to us to make sure every one of those dollars is going to get more people back to work, more people hired, more DC residents in affordable housing, and in any way possible, if we can go into the next budget to reduce burdens on business, like we were able to do with reducing regulatory costs, the cost of starting a business. We got to $99, and we will continue to look for ways to do exactly that.
Governor Northam, talk to me about tax policy in Virginia and how you're going to pay for all this programs that we're going to need to come out of COVID. Speak to that issue if you can.
Well, let me just start by saying Virginia has a problem that I think a lot of other states would like to have. Our surplus this year is $2.6 billion with a B dollar. So I don't think anybody needs to talk about raising taxes, but in Virginia anyway. But the key, I think, for the business community to hear again, one of the things that we recognize over the years, and especially when I took office, is that Virginia and the greater Washington area is very dependent on the military and government contracting, and it always will be, and that's a good thing. But you don't want to put all your marbles in one bag. You've got to diversify. And one of the best things that I think happened to the greater Washington area was when Amazon chose to come to this area for their HQ2. And that really set the stage that, yes, we're going to still be dependent on the military and government contracting, but we're going to encourage other businesses. And I think we really saw that during COVID. The ability to diversify our economy in Virginia and the greater Washington area allowed us to stay strong. And again, at the end of the day, rather than having to talk about taxes in Virginia, we've got a $2.6 billion surplus. So a lot of that will go into our rainy day fund, which is very important for Virginia. It will allow us to keep our AAA bond rating, which is very important. So Virginia right now economically is in a good place, in a good position, but I think a lot of it is related to our ability over the years to diversify our economy. And I would continue to focus on that as we move forward.
Governor Hogan, can you speak to tax policy and also regulatory policy in terms of what you're doing as we come out of COVID, hopefully? How are we going to pay for all the efforts that the various governments have been undertaking to get us out of it?
Sure. So we're in the same shape as Virginia. We have a huge surplus. Our revenues are way up. We're in great shape, the best we've been in a long time. I just mentioned earlier that we cut taxes this year, $1.45 billion, the largest tax cut in history. We've now cut taxes 7 years in a row. I was elected 7 years ago as a Republican in the most democratic state in America because of taxes. Our state had raised taxes 43 times. We lost 10,000 businesses, 100,000 jobs. Some of them went over to the Commonwealth of Virginia because it was cheaper. But we're winning them back now. When I ran for governor, Maryland's overall economic performance was 49th out of 50 states, and we moved to number 6. It was the biggest economic turnaround in America for 2 reasons. One, we became unabashedly pro-business. We cut thousands of regulations, and we cut taxes 7 years in a row. Revenues didn't go down. Revenues went way up. Jobs went up. The number of businesses. We now have more businesses and more jobs than ever before in the history of the state. We've got a big surplus, and we're going to keep trying to find ways to cut regulations and cut taxes so businesses can thrive and grow and put more of our people to work.
Oh, go ahead, Governor.
Just to quickly dovetail, I think one of the things that's so important, maybe not so much for the greater Washington area, but it has been for Virginia, and especially rural areas of Virginia, is site development. And we, when a business says we want to come to Virginia, they don't want to wait, 12, 18 months. They want to be ready to go. So we've worked very closely with the federal government and the state and local to have sites throughout Virginia so that when these manufacturers or other companies want to come in, we have the infrastructure, and we talked about regulations, we have the permitting process in place so they're up and ready to go. And one last thing I'll say, and I'll come full circle here, probably one of the most important things for these companies when they come in is to have our workforce. And so we have been very nimble in Virginia. We've got a talent accelerator program where we communicate with businesses. They say we need 100 employees that are trained for such and such, and we do that through our education system, our community colleges. So when their businesses are ready to come to Virginia, we're ready to welcome them.
So we're getting ready to, where's my 5 minutes? Okay, got to wrap up. All right. I want to give you all a chance to give some parting comments. I don't have a specific question. The floor is yours. Mayor Bowser, what do you want to leave the business community with today?
Well, just my appreciation for really working with us, following the public health guidelines and helping us to keep our region safe. We're all going to be a part of the comeback. Governor Northam's focus on hospitality and is very critical to us as well, and getting our visitors and workers back in the downtown. When I look forward and I think about what's coming next year and how we implement it, I think that focus in Washington is going to be critical. So look forward to hearing from us about that. Look forward to other partnership opportunities as we have ideas about training our residents and bringing business back to the city. Governor Hogan, you want to give us some final thoughts?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank everybody for putting this together. I want to thank all the folks for attending this morning. It's great to have the business community out together with us. I want to thank you, Tony, for visiting your parents. And, we've said it multiple times here today, but this is very true, that the three of us, we like each other, we get along well, and we stay in communication because it really is important for us to work together as a region. And I think we do a great job at that. And we're going to continue to collaborate and cooperate and help each other, because as the region grows, it helps each one of us and puts more of our folks to work, helps the business community. We want to thank all of you. I know it's been an incredibly difficult, more than a year and a half for those of us in government, but all of you in business as well. And, I just am really appreciative of the way everybody pulled together, took the pandemic seriously, more so than they did in other places in the country. The fact that everybody's getting vaccinated, that you're doing what you can to get your employees and your customers back safely into your businesses. And it's an honor to be here with all of you, and I just thank you for the opportunity to do it again. I look forward to having next year maybe the full house with another 500 people with no masks. How about that? We'll get back to normal. So thank you.
Governor Northam, any parting thoughts?
Just
and
a
this
couple-
is your last year as governor, am I right?
Yes, sir, that's what they
That's
tell
all
me. Yes, sir. What do we say? Thank goodness for one-term governors in Virginia. But Tony, thanks for having us today. This is really a lot of fun being here with the business community. And just a couple quick points that I want to make in closing. First of all, I'm sorry that you're fighting traffic to visit your family. We've got plenty of property in Virginia, so if you'd like to become a resident, I will.
Hey, Governor, I love my mayor too much.
All right. You're being very diplomatic, but I'll be glad to show you around. Secondly, something that we didn't talk about today, but we're very excited in Virginia, and Maryland and DC have been working with us, but is energy and moving away from carbon. This is very, very important to businesses that want to come to this greater Washington area. And so I think all of us working together, and it won't happen overnight, but to move towards solar and wind. Obviously, we use nuclear, about a third of our energy in Virginia, but we need to continue to focus. And when you talk about the economy and providing good paying jobs, it's a great way to go. It's good for the environment. It's great for the economy. The last thing I want to mention, and we talked about our workforce and some other things that businesses are interested in, but one of the things that we have really focused on in Virginia, and I think this is so important, is to be inclusive and to embrace diversity. It is very important to businesses to be welcoming and to really not worry about what country folks come from, the color of their skin, the religion that they practice, or who they choose to love. We need to welcome people to the area. And so to move our economy forward in this greater Washington area, we need to keep that in mind. And that's one of the reasons yesterday that we took a bold move in Virginia and took down our last Confederate statue, because these statues are divisive. They don't need to be there. And when we say welcome to Virginia or welcome to the greater Washington area, we mean that for everybody, and that's what we need to continue to focus on. So Tony, thanks for having me here, and I guess I'll be sitting out with the audience next year if you all invite me, but I'll look forward to continuing to work with you all. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. So we'll just close by thanking you all for doing this. I think we're in our third year doing this together. And it's really a great opportunity for me and a pleasure to be with you all. And I know on behalf of the business community that shows up for this, we all thank you all for doing it. And we hope to see you or your successors and keep coming in years to come. So thank you all very much.